Welcome to Stitching Up Trouble, a podcast where a quilt retreat owner and a creative quilt designer cross paths and stitch up some trouble together. I am Mary, owner of Koosa Mountain Lodge.
And I'm Heidi Pridemore of the Whimsical Workshop. Hope you enjoy.
Hey. Hello, Heidi. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I am very excited for this podcast.
Me too. And are you all recovered from last week?
No. Yes, I am. It was a really, really good week. It was a lot of late nights because I don't like to miss anything. So I stay up with the night owls, and then I try to get up with the early birds too because I don't want to miss anything. But it was a really good week. I got a lot accomplished.
Which works when you're doing one retreat, but when you have back-to-back retreats, those late nights, early mornings start to build.
Yeah.
I do the exact same thing. Try to be there for all the different hours. Now, if you stay up 24 hours, I'm sorry, I have to go to sleep. But do you have people that come and stay up 24 hours ever?
Well, they don't stay up 24 hours, but I've had retreats where somebody stayed up until like 4 and then somebody else woke up at 4. So like it was like we were sitting vigil in this sewing room because it was a 24-hour, like somebody was in there at all times all weekend.
Yeah.
So
no, I wasn't even running a retreat. I did not, and I was going to bed at like 1, 2 o'clock, getting up at 5:30 at the one I was at. So, I'm so used to doing it when I'm the teacher that when I'm not the teacher, I still do it. So I'm like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. It's okay.
Exactly.
All right. Exactly. This was your idea for this week's podcast, which we're both very excited about. So I'm going to let you explain to the listeners what we're going to talk about.
Okay. So basically it's a top 10 things that it's worth spending money on for quilting. There's some things that you can get by with that you don't really need top of the line, and you should always just keep your budget in mind and buy what you can afford. So if you can't afford all of the quality things, buy what makes you happy just so that you're quilting or crafting or creating. But these are the things that I have learned in the last 15 years or so of quilting that like, okay, I should have really spent some money on this, because when I bought the upgraded version, it was like, I should really have the good stuff.
Okay. So I think a good way to do this is you have your top 10. I have my top 10 that kind of overlap yours. So I would say let's go off of your list. And if it's on my list as well, I mean, I always have my 2 cents, but if it's on my list as well, I'll jump in. And then at the end, anything that wasn't on my list or wasn't on your list that's on mine, I'll cover it. Make sense?
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So number 1 is?
My number 1 thing is good thread. And this is especially, I'm a long armor, so it's really very frustrating when I don't have good thread and you stitch for like 12 inches and the thread breaks, or it's very linty, so things just get all gummed up, or like if it's variegated and the repeat's not great, or it's just very frustrating to not have good thread. And I started quilting with like the thread that I had bought 10 years ago to make the dress for my daughter, and I had it, and it's like, well, the thread is not very good quality to begin with, and it's old. So just, don't buy good thread. Buy the best thread you can afford. And make sure it's the right thread for the project.
And just to clarify before we keep going, these are not in any particular order, or are yours in order?
Right. They are not in particular order.
Well, I could go on and on and on about thread because I'm an aura philosopher.
as an
Yeah, so maybe
orophilosoper.
that's a future
Yes.
podcast. We talk about threads and all the stuff, but I'm 100% on there. One of the things I say in the lecture, so what an orophilosopher is I can go out and talk about orophil in partnership with orophil. And I
Mhm.
am definitely just an orophil girl, but there are a lot of good threads out there. It doesn't have to just be orophil. But the one thing I always tell people is
Mhm.
if you are spending a lot of money on a sewing machine, it's just like a sports car. You don't put cheap oil in a sports car. Don't put cheap thread in a sewing machine, because the cheaper the thread, the more lint that builds up, like you said, the more likely it's going to snap and
Mhm.
get caught in the machine. So if you need an excuse to buy the nicer, more expensive threads, if you're going to have a nice machine, give it the nice thread. So without
Yeah,
going on and on and on,
absolutely.
I'm 100% thread is one of the more important things to spend money on. So,
Yes,
okay.
absolutely. All right. Number two, and I bet
I have the list. I know what's
you
coming.
you understand me on this one. Um, Good
hmm
scissors. Um, the right tool for the right job.
Yep.
So nice big scissors for cutting batting, nice little snips for trimming thread, the right embroidery scissors, all of that. Good
Yeah.
scissors. There's a reason that meme of, you know, um, I used mom's sewing scissors or fabric scissors to cut paper, and now the cops are
Yes.
here. Like, good scissors make a huge difference.
And my
So,
caveat to that one is get a good person to sharpen your scissors. So, because we're a design studio, what we do is we have enough scissors that if they're off being sharpened, we have enough to keep going. And when they come back from the
mhm.
sharpening place, if we're not using them right away, I put a hang tag on them with the date sharpened and put them in a drawer.
Ooh,
And then when the ones I'm using are
smart.
too dull and I go pull those out of the drawer, I take the tag off and put the dull ones in. And then when I have enough, I take them to go get sharpened again. Um, a
Nice.
good note for that is the person who sharpens my scissors is the same guy who sharpens all the chef knives in the city. So all the top 5-star chef knife,
Oh,
if he's
right.
being given
Yeah.
a $1,000 knife to sharpen, he knows how to sharpen things. So what you do is you find
Yeah.
the guy who's sharpening those knives and ask if he does scissors. And we're lucky we have one. We live in Phoenix, so
Nice.
that's a tip. Go find the
Yeah.
guy who sharpens the knives and ask him to sharpen your scissors.
Yeah. I have never had a pair of my scissors
Then
sharpened.
you probably have quite a few pairs that need to be sharpened. The only ones
I just have quite a
they
few
will
pairs.
not sharpen serrated ones, and they don't sharpen pinking shears. But
Right.
yeah,
Right.
you'll know it bounces off the fabric. And I also have a YouTube video about scissors, about the size scissors you should have. So I'll link that below. But it talks about, like you said, the large, the
Nice.
medium, the small. Talks about the different blades, and it talks about like the bare minimum of what you need for scissors. Okay, well, that one
Nice.
was not on my list, but it was on your list. I knew you had it covered. So, all right. So, good thread, good scissors. Next one.
Um, the next one is quality
Mm-hmm.
fabric. So um, I'm not going to shame anybody for shopping at Joann's or Hobby
Buy with your
Lobby or
budget.
whatever.
Buy with what your budget.
You buy with
Yeah.
your budget and you buy according to the project
Mm-hmm.
that you're doing. So my mom used to love making table runners. She made hundreds of them a year, and she bought the cheap fabric for the
Mm-hmm.
back of them, which is totally fine because you're not seeing it and you're not using it as a quilt to wrap up in. It doesn't matter how it
Right.
feels. They're not getting washed a lot, so so buy the fabric that fits the project and your budget. But if you can afford it, good quality fabric is just so much nicer to work with. It holds up nicer, it feels nicer, it doesn't get all stringy and ravelly. Just good quality fabric is very important.
And here are my tips
Just
on that, because there are like the fabric companies have different divisions within them. So there's the high quality fabric, and they go under one name. And then they have like medium fabric goes under another name, and the lower fabric goes under the third name. So when you go to Michael's, Michael's is now selling fabric, or
Mm-hmm.
you go even to go to Walmart. Walmart's a perfect example. I had to do a project with Walmart fabric. You can go into a place that has inexpensive fabric. The key is to feel the fabric. Feel if it, and if you can see the thread count, do not buy it. But you can get some decent fabric at a lower price. So you feel the fabric, it feels good to you, then it's probably a higher quality fabric. But there's a company called Fabric Editions. They have great, inexpensive fabric at those places. It's owned by Jaftex. That's a Henry Glass, Studio E, and Blank. So,
Oh wow.
maybe they're using a little bit lower quality shirting to print on, but it's still a good quality. So you can find good fabric at a lower price. You just have to have a little more
Mm-hmm.
knowledge up front to do it and know
Mm-hmm.
the brands, know
Yeah.
which ones has the fabric that feels really itchy and crappy and the ones that feel nicer. Just go by
Yeah.
feel. You can't go wrong. So, okay. I did not have fabric either. So,
Wow.
well, I was
I'm
thinking
very
more
interested.
tools. I wasn't thinking actual supplies.
Okay.
So anyway, okay, next one.
Okay. My next one is something new to
Mhm.
me, like within the last handful of months, is the
Mhm.
Stripology rulers. Like I was very, very skeptical at
Mhm.
first of how, like, yeah, I can cut strips. It's not that big of a deal, Like I can cut it quick with just a regular ruler and
So
whatever.
why
And then I
don't you
started.
explain what a stripology meat ruler is? Because a lot of people probably don't even know what that is.
Oh, good point. So Stripology rulers are by GE Designs, and they are um, acrylic rulers that have slits in them that are most of them are every half inch apart. And they have a ton of different markings on them that you can use to cut strips and to square up your blocks. It makes it really easy to square up blocks. It makes it really easy to cut on angles. And they're just, it's a very versatile ruler. Um, and it, like I said,
I
do
do
you have
because
one?
people who are looking,
There it
these
is.
are
There you go.
they're manufactured by Creative
That's the
Grids.
XL.
The designer is
Yes.
GE Design, but it is a Creative Grids ruler. So if people
Yes.
are looking for these, yeah, this is the big guy. I have no idea how to
Yep.
use this.
Well,
Just FYI.
I'm teaching a class on it tonight. Um, so there's marking for scoring up blocks. There's markings for, like I said, cutting on the
Mhm.
diagonal, either the 60 degrees or the 45 degrees. It's a much more versatile ruler than I
Mhm.
thought, and it makes like some of the quilts that I like to make are the ones with a
Mhm.
trick. So you sew strip sets together, you whack them apart and sew them back
Right.
together, and you have something that looks like you cut all these tiny little things apart. A lot of the stripology patterns are like that. So you sew blocks together, cut them apart, sew them back together in a different way, and it like completely changes the look of it. So um, I am a new believer in the stripology
Well, and
rulers.
so I
So.
had generic quilting rulers. So stripology falls into that one. So you need to
Mhm.
make sure when you are starting quilting or the rulers you have one, if this is for beginners, make sure you can see the numbers on the ruler against all the different color fabrics. Make sure the ruler isn't slipping
Mhm.
on you because they're all different. Like you can get one with nothing on the back and it's going to slide like an ice rink. Creative Grids has sandblasted dots on the back, so when you push down, it locks in place and it doesn't slide as much. And then there's Quilter
Select.
Select that
Quilter
has the
select.
entire back
Yep.
covered. There's no way it's moving at all. And different quilters are
Right.
going to like different levels of slippage. So test that you can read the numbers. And then invest in just a few different rulers. Again, I have videos on all of that, like how many rulers you should have. But also, don't be afraid to try other rulers. different brands, like they're
Mhm.
constantly reinventing the ruler. But find the one that you really, really like and invest in those rulers. Now, for my older quilters, my quilters who've been quilting for 20 plus years, if the numbers have rubbed off, it is time to invest in a new ruler. Or you've cracked it on your way to camp or somewhere, treat yourself to a new ruler because they
Yeah.
are not going to last for eternity, and we deserve to have good quilting rulers. And I can't tell you how many times I'm in a class and they brought their rulers and they pull it out and I can't even read it, or they still have the very first ruler they bought that doesn't work as well as the new ones, but they don't want to pay the
Right.
30 or $40. They would rather buy fabric. Buy yourself a good ruler. That's all I can tell you.
Mhm.
Okay, so we got
Yes.
rulers, cutting mats. Sorry, I jumped ahead. Cutting mats.
That's okay. Cutting
Okay.
mats. Cutting mats. This is a constant struggle for me at the
Mhm.
lodge. I have a giant cutting table, and I am trying to find a cutting mat that will cover the whole
Mhm.
table without a
Mhm.
seam. So, like, you can trim up, square up your big quilts and things like that without hitting a seam in the
Mhm.
cutting mat. So I bought one, and it just seems to dull the blades
It
really
does.
quickly.
I know which one it is, and
Um,
that's the one everybody buys. It's like a compressed
yeah.
white plastic. It's at all the shows. And the
Mm-hmm.
retreat we were just at, I didn't know, I'd never been to that retreat house. They also had those mats, and I told my friends, because this was a fun one, I'm like, I pulled out my little green mat. I'm like, just cut on my green mat. It will dull your blade if you cut on the white one. And sure enough, two of them had brand new blades. By the end, they were
Mm-hmm.
dull because of the mat material.
Yeah.
So mats were
Yeah.
on mine as well. All I tell people all the time, not all mats are created equal. There is a brand called Avlin, A-V or Alvin. They have a 36 by 46 mat that's on my cutting table. These are self-healing mats,
Mm-hmm.
meaning the little fingers push away when you put the blade in, so your blades won't dull as
Mm-hmm.
quickly. Now, Avlin has competitors on Amazon that are half as price. They will dull your blades. Quilting
Okay.
mats, the best quilting mats out there are um, Olfa cutting mats and Creative Grid cutting mats. So those are almost the same as the Avalon ones. The other thing is you're going to notice if you spend more money on a better mat, it will last longer without the grooves. Because if you get the mat where the
Right.
fingers move
Yep.
apart, you don't get the groove stuck where you cut every single time. So cutting mats are really important. Really, really important. And if you do have to seam it, just put the seams on either end and keep the bulk of the mat in the middle. Because I have a seam on mine as well, and it's over to the side, so it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't. I don't usually hit it when I'm cutting stuff, but I can have a. I have a
Okay.
smaller mat on the side to cut smaller things. Okay, cutting mats. Does
That makes
that
sense.
work?
Cutting
Cutting mats.
mats. I'm good with
Okay.
that.
Your
Yeah.
next one.
Irons. Buy a good
Mm-hmm.
iron. Um, I like the main feature that I look for when I'm buying a new iron is the holes that the steam comes out
Mm-hmm.
of. So they should be spread apart, like cover a lot of the surface so you get an even steam. And I I avoid the ones that have like the grooves for where this
Mm-hmm.
steam comes out. It should be a flat surface and not one that's grooved. Because you can catch your corners of your little blocks and stuff in the
Yeah.
grooves,
Yeah.
and
Or applique. The applique will curl up
wrinkles
and get
into
caught in
them.
there. So.
Yeah. So I'm fussy about my
Yeah.
irons. I like them to be a certain um,
Mm-hmm.
weight, so I feel like I've got some, help with the
Right.
pressing. And it's got to get really
Right.
hot and have decent
And
heat.
not have a
So,
2-minute shut off. I like a longer shut off. I want the
oh
shut off,
yeah,
but I don't want it instantaneous because that's a pain in the butt. The other thing I would add for irons, if you do a lot of fusible applique or a lot of different interfacing ironing, look for a ceramic plate because the ceramic nothing sticks to the ceramic plate. You don't have to clean the bottom
yeah.
as often. So ceramic plate, but everything else you said, I
Mhm.
agree. And make sure you buy a good travel iron. So
Yeah.
I'm going to cry. I have a little baby Rowenta travel iron that I bought 20 some odd years ago. And yeah, if you want
Wow.
your irons to last, another thing, do not put water in them. Use a spray bottle. Use
Oh,
a
yeah.
spray. If you don't want your iron to leak, don't put water in them. It's an electronic device. It's not meant to hold. It's designed to hold water, but in the world of engineering and physics, that's really kind of going against the grain. And if you buy, we
Yeah.
bought 4 or 5 Rowenta high-end irons for our studio when we had outside designers. All of them leaked within a year because we put water in them. My little Rowenta
Yeah.
travel iron, never put water in it. It's 20 years old, still works great. So spray
Yeah.
bottle.
Well, and I tell my people that come to the retreats to not put water in mine either because you never know who's putting what in them. And
Mhm.
if you don't use water at all, then it can't spit out little brown spots on
No,
your
yeah, because
block.
that's the other problem with it. So that's a good
Yep.
one. Okay,
So,
so on mine, just to jump in here, I didn't have irons, but I had ironing board pressing mats.
oh,
Okay,
yeah,
I
that's a
mean,
good one.
unless you're
Yeah.
allergic to wool, I highly recommend pressing on a wool mat. They're worth every penny. They last forever. And if you're not going to press on that, press on a board wrapped with batting and muslin so it's not squishy. So it's tight, hard. Because when you press, I just went to that retreat and they had the cheapy ironing boards, which are rickety, they're tipping all over, and they had the cushiony foam under the ironing board, and then they had the I don't know, it was like a metallic-y cover on it that I guess is supposed to make
Yeah.
none of my seams pressed well. I ended up pulling out my little travel mat and pressing all of my seams, and they are flat on a wool mat. If you see people with the clapper, is it the
Mhm.
clapper or the wood thing?
Yeah.
You don't even really need that
Yep.
with a wool mat. I mean, it's nice to have, but you don't really need it. So invest
Mhm.
in a good pressing surface to go with your really nice iron.
Yes. There you go. Good.
Okay.
The 1-2 punch there to make your seams stay
Well, if you
flat.
make all your spaces workable and user friendly and make your supplies last, you're going to have a much more relaxing and enjoyable time doing your craft. So invest, if you're going to do this all the time, invest in
Absolutely.
the tools. If you're not, if you're a once a year quilter, just listen to the podcast and enjoy
Right.
it. So, okay, number 7.
Number 7,
Mm-hmm.
pins.
Yeah.
Pins. Stop using the pins that your grandma
Mm-hmm.
gave you
Yeah.
40 years ago. They're dull, they're
Mm-hmm.
thick, you can't
They
iron
can
on
ruin your
them,
fabric.
they can ruin your
Yeah.
fabric. Um, so I like the glass head pins or those magic pins that you can
Mm-hmm.
iron on, and I like the longer, really
Yeah.
thin ones.
Yeah. What
So
color for your magic pins? What color head are you using? Pink or blue? Blue. Okay, so the
blue.
blue ones are considered the patchwork pins. The longer the pins get with magic pins, the thicker the shank gets. So the blue ones are like
Hmm.
just the right length and they're just the right thinness. But to add a caveat to your pins thing, there is so much more digitally printed fabric out there. And digitally printed fabric means the ink is sitting on top and the back of it is like tends to be white. If you use a dull needle in
Hmm.
there and you create a run, the printing will go away. So yeah, I didn't have that one on my list, but definitely make sure your pins are sharp. Anything metal that we use, pins, seam rippers, rotary cutters, scissors, you need to change them out and replace them or sharpen them. And pins are no exception. I do a lot of quilts, but I tend to change my pins in the studio like every other year. I will discard the old ones
Hmm.
and open up a new pack. So yeah, pins are good. I didn't have that one either.
So, um, number 8 is kind of 2 in 1. So I think I wrote down classes when I wrote the list, but because I wasn't wearing my glasses, it got interpreted as glasses. So I have recently started needing the
Wel-
readers, the
Welcome to the
cheaters.
club.
So I have, yep. a wonderful club to be in. I'm honored. Um, so I have readers in every project bag. I've got them in my purse. I've got them all
Mhm.
over the place. So it
Mhm.
like multiple
Mhm.
readers, but also classes are definitely worth spending the money on because you meet new people, you learn new things, even if you're not learning. Like if you know how to do the pattern and you don't need the class to learn the pattern, it's still very valuable to go because you'll pick up something else. You'll pick up a new technique, you'll pick up just little tips and
Mhm.
tricks, maybe a new, you'll see a fellow student with a different colorway, something like that. So glasses and
Nice.
classes are definitely worth spending the
And I
money
can say,
on.
I mean, I've taught tons of classes all over the place, and every class, somebody says, "Oh, I learned something new," or "I personally have learned something new from my students." I mean, my teaching, and I'm sure you can say the same thing. My teaching gets better every time I teach a class because my students are teaching me something. So if you can teach the teacher
Hmm.
something, all the students can get something out of a class. But it also will,
Right.
to jump back to last week, it'll help with a creative block. You'll get the juices flowing. It kind of gets you outside of your comfort zone, especially if you take classes you are not 100% sure you know how to do the technique. So many people are like, I teach a curve class. Nobody wants to sign up because they don't know how to do curves. The whole point of the class is to learn curves. So
It's
try signing up for something
right.
you don't
Yeah,
know. That would help. Um,
exactly. Exactly.
backing back into the glasses, because this goes with it. This was on my list, but not yours, is lighting. Make sure you
Oh
spend
yeah.
good. I mean, you don't have to spend a fortune, but make sure you have good lighting. Even if it's a normal table lamp and you put a true light bulb in it, you don't have to buy the $300 lights. My studio, I have one, two, three, four, five, I have five lights in my little vicinity right here. Because depending on what I need a lot of light. And
Hmm.
lighting,
Yeah.
if you have really good lighting, then you don't necessarily need glasses as soon as we do. Save your eyes, get the lights. So,
Okay, mom. Thanks.
all right, you got one more on your list.
I have
Two
two
more.
more because glasses and
Oh, two more.
classes.
Okay.
I kind of put together.
Okay.
Two more. Um, a retreat. Go
Yeah.
on retreat, especially at Koosa Mountain Lodge.
Especially with Heidi as the teacher.
Definitely, exactly. It's definitely worth spending money
Yeah.
on. Usually, they're not that expensive. If you're going to go with a group of
Mhm.
friends, you can minimize that cost. You do your own food.
Yeah.
You know, everybody takes a
Yeah.
meal and does a meal, and you just get to spend time together. And it's so um, rewarding. It's
Mm.
so relaxing, inspiring, all of that.
Yeah.
So spend the money on a
It's food for
retreat.
the soul. It's definitely a thing. And you are booking 2026, but may as well plug it while we're here.
But yep, I am booking
Okay.
2026. I am not officially accepting bookings for the new
Mhm.
building yet. I want to be closer to having
Right.
that done. Um, but that should be available in 2026 too. So I should have
All
twice
right.
as many spaces available. So
So
yeah.
grab your group, go see Mary. And she also, I
Hmm.
mean, you don't have to live in the Atlanta area. She's got groups that fly in from
You
out of
don't.
places. So hopefully our audience is bigger than
Mhm.
Georgia. Um,
So the furthest I've had somebody come, I had two ladies from Australia come with a group over New
nice.
Year's. So I can work out sewing machine rental, all that kind of stuff. So um, we'll
Yeah.
figure it out. We'll make it easy for
Yeah.
you to get
And then
here.
I'm going to
So
jump
yes,
on to
retreats.
your retreat and also say if you need to be even more pampered, go on a quilting cruise. Yes,
Ooh,
because that
yeah.
those and just my commercials. I have one in October on Stitch in Heaven. So if anyone's interested, let me know.
Nice.
But that that is the ultimate pampering in the sense that the cruise
Hmm.
line takes care of everything. But if you just want to relax with your friends and have a great time, a retreat is the best way. And you learn from all the people in the room. It's
Yeah.
you have a problem, you run into a jam on your project, you've got 8 or 10 other people that can give you their advice. You may not want it, but you will get it. So,
Yep.
all right, so
Absolutely.
retreats,
Absolutely.
that's an excellent one. I didn't have anything for that one. Okay.
All right. So my number 10 is patterns. Invest in good patterns. If you find a designer that you like, buy their patterns.
Thank you.
Um, I know not all designers are created
Mhm.
equal. Some of the direction, and not all quilters are created equal.
Right.
So you may understand somebody's directions better than somebody
Mhm.
else does, and find the style of designers that you like, the style of quilts, but buy their patterns. Designers are small business owners. They're trying to make a living. If you buy one pattern and make 6 copies and hand it over to friends, you're cheating somebody out of their ability to make a living, and it's not fair. So buy the patterns. They're like 10 or $15, and some of them are even,
Yeah.
less expensive. But you know, that money that you spend on a pattern really has an impact on that
Mhm.
designer. So
Well,
go ahead and buy the
and I can tell
patterns.
you, as a pattern designer, thank you. But I have a website, the Shopify, the Whimsical Workshop, and um,
Hmm.
even now, somebody will buy a pattern. I still get excited when my little phone goes ching, and it's like it's a $12 download, and I'm like, "Ooh, I sold a pattern!" Um, on that note, unless you're buying them online, most quilt shops do not mind if you open the pattern and look at it. Make sure, if you're a visual person who only looks at the illustrations and then reads when they get in trouble, make sure there's good illustrations. Or if you're a literal person and you read and only look at the pictures when you get in trouble, make sure that you read the first few steps. It should make sense. We use here as a rule of thumb, Matthew reviews all the patterns. He's never quilted a day in his life, but he reads them because if it's a good instruction, no matter what it is, any person should be able to
Hmm.
read it and understand what's going on. So definitely check
Right.
those out. And you're right, not all patterns are created equal. Just know, if you're getting into the really expensive, there are expensive patterns out there, but make sure before you do that
Mhm.
that you like their style of writing and whatnot. And we all thank you for buying patterns. We're getting rich one pattern at a time. So okay, so those were your
Yeah.
10. I
Yep.
had one, two, three. I had four more to add. Okay.
Okay.
First one is sewing machine. The machine we're working on. That's really important. Um,
Yes,
and
it
nobody is
is.
telling you to go buy a $20,000 sports car sewing machine. There are a lot of really, really good machines out there that are a few $100s. But make sure, if you
Hmm.
can, you sew on it with 100% cotton, because that's if you're a quilter, that's what you're going to sew on. Make sure when you sew, like people, even if you're new and you sit down and you sew, what they don't really look for, and they should, is does the fabric go straight through? Does it veer to the left? Does it veer to the right? My very first machine was a Singer, and it veered to the left. And I was brand new, and I thought it was me. And then somebody put me on a Bernina. Not that you have to jump to a Bernina, so it's straight. And I'm like, holy smokes, it's not me, it was the machine. So make sure you think about that. Make sure you get a machine you understand the maintenance on. Make sure that you buy a machine within your budget. Do some research. Don't go buy the one off the
Yeah.
shelf. Um, but like I said, I know of some good machines that are like $200-300, and then I know you can go all the way up to a bazillion dollars. And don't
Yep.
buy more machine than you're going to use. If you're not going to get into machine embroidery and you're not going to do all these fancy things, you do need just a basic sewing machine. Do not let them talk you into more. If you think you might go that way, then okay. But I've been sewing for
Yeah.
30 years. No, 20 years. 20. I started at 30. So 24 years. I've never done machine embroidery. I have no desire to do machine embroidery. Yet I have a machine sitting here
Yeah.
that can do machine embroidery. It is too much machine for what I do. So, sewing
Yeah.
machine was one. Sewing chair or sewing cabinet. If you're
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you're gonna
Yep.
sit and sew for hours and hours and hours, make sure you're in an ergonomically comfortable area. Either spring for the
Yeah.
chair with the extra padding. I had back surgery. I actually sew standing up, so I spent my money on a nice sit stand desk because there are certain things you have like try binding and quilting. You have to sit, but everything else you can stand and sew.
Mhm.
So invest in the thing you're going to sit in the most. And there's some
That's very
very
smart.
good chairs.
Yeah.
The only reason I know that is the first lady who sewed for me, Kathy. She's such a sweetheart. She worked with me for 10 years. She sat at my dining room table and sewed for like the first 4 years. Never said a word. Never told me just how uncomfortable that was. And then when I got her a cabinet and a chair, she's like, "Oh my God, I was having horrible back pain sitting in that chair." I'm like, "Why didn't you tell me?" you know? So from that experience, I'm always looking for making sure you're comfortable in a
Mhm.
chair. And then the last two were marking tools like Frixion pens, chalk pencils. However, you're going to have to mark your fabric. Make if you get so mad you want to throw the thing across the room, it's time to get a better marking pen. I use Bowen chalk pencils because their lead is thicker, so it doesn't snap as
Mhm.
often. Like when you use a chalk pencil or mechanical pencil and the leads pop off, this one the lead is thicker, so it doesn't pop off. It took me a while to understand I didn't want a cheap pencil. And I didn't want one you had to
Yeah.
sharpen because most places don't have pencil sharpeners anymore. You have one, right?
Correct. I
You
do
have
have
one.
one. I do.
And then the
Not most places
what's that?
though. Said I'm not
No,
most
you're not.
places.
Because I saw somebody use it and I'm like, oh, so I could bring my white chalk pencil. And if you have one that you sharpen, I don't like those because if you drop them, you will crack the lead inside. And then all of a sudden you don't know what's going on. Why is my lead keep snapping? It's because it's soft. So it'll break if you drop it. Same thing happens with color
Yeah.
pencils. So, and my very last one was a seam ripper. Not all seam rippers are created equal.
No, they're not.
Yeah. Spend a
No, they're
little
not.
bit money on a seam ripper. The head of the seam ripper will be stronger steel or metal. I don't know what metal it is. Some seam rippers actually, I know no one can see me, but they'll have a flat, like when you turn the seam ripper up on side, so it's pointing forward. The bottom will actually be flat to
Mhm.
slide under the thing. If you could find one of those, they're the best, but not everybody takes the extra tooling to do
Mhm.
that. But find a good seam ripper and change your seam ripper once a year. If you're still using your mom's seam ripper, put it in a
Yeah.
pretty
Or the one that
jar.
came with the machine you
Yeah.
bought.
E-
Yeah. The
Yep.
one that you
Every year, change your seam
got with
ripper.
your machine 10 years
Hmm.
ago.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. It's
Yeah. If
okay.
it bounces off the
It can
thread,
go.
it's time to retire it. And I know somebody listening is laughing because it bounced off their thread if they didn't change it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
that was a lot.
That's a pretty good list. I think we
Yeah.
did good. Um, I love helping people spend their money.
Me too.
So,
Me too. Yeah, one of my favorite lectures is a few of my favorite things where I give a bunch of these tips and tricks and we sell the notions.
mhm.
And it's like every time I sell one of those things, I know I've just made their life a little easier. So I don't feel bad about
Yeah.
it because there's certain things. I
Right.
mean, we could do a whole thing on like specialty things and like, are they worth the money? Because there's always
Right.
the
Yeah.
notions. There's always somebody walking around it. You walk around a show and they're demoing it and you buy it and you're like, "Oh, I got to have this." And then you don't remember how to use it. There's quite a few of
Right.
those. So
Exactly. Yeah.
so
There
we
are.
gave you, I don't know, 15 things I think in the end. So let us know, did
Yeah.
we miss any? I keep looking
Yeah.
at our podcast and
You,
nobody's leaving us comments. Somebody just say hi.
yeah. Just
From my
hi.
understanding, Mary and I are new at the whole podcast thing. From my understanding, leaving comments will help us in the ranking as well. So if we can do a little plug plea here, leave us a comment. Just say hi to Mary or hi to me and let us know you're listening and that you've enjoyed these. Or if you have criticism, just be nice about it. We'll take it.
We
All
will.
right. We
We're
are.
strong. We can
We
handle it.
are. Did we talk about, before we go,
So,
did we talk about what we were doing right now?
No, I was just going to ask you, what are you working on this
Oh wait,
week?
I made a list. So one of my clients that we do marketing for is Real Leather. It's Real Leather with one L. And I've been creating content for them as well as doing their marketing. So I spent the week learning how to punch on leather and how to color leather to make these little plant pokes. And that
Oh,
video is going up on the
cute.
Real Leather YouTube channel. It's kind of fun because I'm learning how to use leather as I'm teaching people how to use leather. And that's like a whole new rabbit hole for me. So I did those this week. I'm teaching punch needle at a local shop. So I created this fish punch needle class
Oh,
sample, which now I'm going to make kits for. And then the last
so
thing I'm
cute.
working on is Sulky Threads asked me to do a 4th of July punch needle. So I got to get that punched and
Cool.
photographed, and the blog post will be up in about a week or two on Sulky Threads. So that's what I'm working on.
Okay.
How about you?
I am working on the sample for my June Stripology class that I'm teaching.
You have
So
to share it with us
that's
for the
coming
people
up.
watching us on YouTube when you get it done.
I will. I will. And then I'm working on my scrappy chandelier quilt, which is
Correct.
behind me. And I'm trying to decide if I really like it or not. I don't think it's my favorite, but I don't know.
Honestly,
Heidi's not, Heidi's not saying anything.
no,
It can't be
I
good.
think it's
She's
just
trying to
not
be
there
nice.
yet. I think so. Right now, I think what you need to do is kind of add. I know you have the colored corner squares on each block. I know it's extra work, but I would
Hmm.
pick a couple colors for sashing to go between them because the black is like overwhelming the color. So if you just put like a
Hmm.
little 1 inch sashing between them, it would a lighter color. It would help it.
But that changes the pattern of it, and then it's not a chandelier one. Yeah, I don't like
Well,
it. I had it. I was
so
working
you got
on
to
it.
decide: do you not
I
like
don't
it,
think
or are you a slave to the chandelier block?
I am a slave to the chandelier block for this project because I have a um, a set of quilting motifs for the chandelier quilt that I
Oh,
want to
okay.
use because it
Well,
looks
then
really
it's not
cool.
done yet.
So yeah, I don't think I don't like the scrappy of it. I don't
Well,
think.
the other thing is just
So
like to me, it's like the black is really heavy. So when you go to
yeah,
quilt it in a bright color. It'll break up the black.
hmm,
Yeah,
there you go. That's
yeah.
a good idea.
So
I
yeah.
like that.
So you're working
I
on a
like that.
chandelier.
So working on my chandelier, and then I am working on a t-shirt quilt
Didn't we just talk about
for a
you
dear
weren't going to
friend
do
out
those?
there.
Or is that me just
Yeah,
projecting
well,
on you because I won't do them?
let's see projecting. I think I mentioned that I have one to
Okay.
do,
All right.
and yeah, I still have one to do, so I'm still working on that.
I'm sorry.
Oh, not my favorite, but that's
Yeah.
okay because this person is
Did
worth it.
did
Not
you put
everybody is
the
worth it.
interfacing on all the t-shirts already?
Not
Okay.
yet.
I recommend it's from Behind the Seams. What is it called? So Steady is an interfacing you put on the back of it, and it'll iron on really nice. It'll be easy. That's the part I hate about
All
t-shirt
right.
quilts.
Will you share that
Yeah,
link
yeah,
so I know what
yeah.
to buy?
And if it's not So Steady, I will correct it below because I did all the behind the scenes products, and there was one that was just it was awesome. Like any of those products press really easy, so you don't have to sit there and fight with getting it stuck to the t-shirts. So
Nice.
okay,
Good. Yeah.
and I
All
think we
right.
covered
Cool.
everything for this one.
I
All
think
right, so
so.
we will see you guys in the next one. I hope you're enjoying these. Leave us a comment below. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you in the next one.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.